Rosa lived in a small village surrounded by green hills and a flowing river. The village was peaceful, and everyone knew each other. It was a village where the houses were made of wood and the streets were cobblestone. Life was not easy for the villagers. They worked hard, and money was scarce. But they were close, and they took care of each other. Rosa's house was simple. It was small, but it was warm and full of love. She lived there with her father, a fisherman, and her little brother. Rosa's father worked hard every day, sailing his small boat on the river to catch fish. Rosa would help him whenever she could, pulling in the nets or cleaning the fish. Though the work was tiring, she did it with a smile. Her mother had passed away when she was very young, so her father had raised her and her brother by himself. Rosa was known in the village for her beauty. She was tall, with long, dark hair that reached past her waist. Her skin was smooth, and her eyes were a deep shade of brown. But it was her kindness and the way she cared for others that made her truly special. She was not just beautiful on the outside. Her heart was just as lovely. She dreamed of a better life for her family, a life where her father would not have to work so hard, and they could enjoy the little things in life, like fresh bread every morning and flowers in the garden. Every morning, after breakfast, she would walk along the river to clear her mind. She loved looking at the wildflowers that grew along the banks, their colors bright against the green grass. She would sometimes sit by the water for hours, watching the fish swim and listening to the sounds of birds. It was a peaceful life, but she longed for something more. Rosa had a best friend, Eliza, who lived in a house near the village center. Eliza was a bit different from Rosa. She was bold, with fiery red hair and bright green eyes that sparkled with mischief. Eliza was the type of person who enjoyed being the center of attention. She would always flirt with the young men in the village, but she had no interest in settling down with anyone. She loved the attention, but never took it too seriously. One day, as Rosa was walking along the river, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Rosa, you look like you've been daydreaming again," Eliza called, laughing. Rosa turned to see her friend standing with her hands on her hips, looking at her with a playful smile. "Maybe I am," Rosa said, smiling back. "You're always daydreaming," Eliza teased. "You need to get out more. You might catch the eye of one of the men around here." Rosa blushed. "I'm not interested in anyone," she said softly, though her heart fluttered at the thought. It wasn't that she didn't like the men in the village. She just didn't think anyone would be interested in her. Her heart was too big for a simple life, she thought. She wanted something more, something different. Eliza raised an eyebrow. You're too modest. You have the looks, that's for sure. Rosa laughed. That doesn't matter. You'll see, Eliza said, winking. There's a man coming to the village soon, and I think you'll like him. The village was buzzing with excitement one day when a carriage arrived. It was the kind of carriage that only the wealthy used. Rosa was walking by the market when she saw it. People gathered around to see who would step out. She felt a sense of curiosity rising in her chest. Out stepped a tall, handsome man. He had dark, sharp eyes, and his clothes were fine, much finer than anyone in the village had ever worn. He was a young man, maybe in his early 20s, and he carried himself with a confidence that caught the attention of everyone around. Who is he? Rosa asked, her voice soft but curious. That's Sir William, Eliza said with a grin. A nobleman. He's just arrived in the village. I heard he's here for business, but we'll see. He's already looking around like he's interested in more than just the land. Rosa felt a strange flutter in her chest when she looked at Sir William. He was handsome, yes, but there was something about the way he held himself that made her feel uneasy. She knew he was from a different world. The next day, Sir William appeared at Rosa's house. He was polite, but there was something intense about the way he looked at her. It made her feel both nervous and excited at the same time. He introduced himself to her father, offering a polite handshake, and then he turned to Rosa. You have a beautiful home, he said with a smile. His voice was smooth and confident. And you, miss, are the jewel of this village. Rosa felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Thank you, sir, she said softly, her eyes lowered. He laughed gently. Please, call me William. From that moment on, Sir William began visiting the village more often. He always seemed to find excuses to be near Rosa, whether it was to speak to her father or to bring gifts of fruit from his family's estate. He had a charm about him, and people started to notice. Rosa felt torn between her growing affection for him and the nagging feeling that maybe he was only interested in her beauty. Eliza, as always, was the center of attention. She flirted with the men of the village effortlessly, enjoying the way they looked at her. But she wasn't serious about any of them. She was waiting for something more. She dreamed of leaving the village and exploring the world. She wanted excitement, and she knew that the village would never give her the life she craved. Do you think Sir William likes you? Eliza asked one day, leaning in to whisper to Rosa. Rosa blushed. I'm not sure. He's very kind, but I don't think he's really interested in me. Eliza laughed. Don't be silly. Of course, he's interested. You're beautiful, Rosa. And Sir William is used to getting what he wants. If he wants you, he'll find a way to make it happen. Rosa wasn't so sure. She liked Sir William, but there was a part of her that felt uncertain. She wasn't sure if he liked her for who she was, or just for her beauty. As days passed, Rosa found herself spending more and more time with Sir William. He would bring her flowers from his estate, talk to her about life in the city, and tell her stories of grand feasts and ballrooms. He spoke with such passion about his life, but Rosa couldn't help but wonder if he truly cared for her, or if he was just fascinated by her beauty. One evening, Sir William invited her to dinner at the local inn. He sat across from her, his dark eyes focused on her every word. "Rosa," he said, his voice smooth, "I want you to be a part of my life. A woman like you deserves to be treated like royalty." Rosa hesitated. "But I don't want to be treated like royalty. I want to live a life that is simple and honest." He smiled, taking her hand. "I can give you that. I can offer you a life of comfort, Rosa. Think about it." Rosa's heart raced, torn between the life Sir William offered and the life she knew with her family. Adrian, the farmer's son, had always been there for Rosa. He was the kind of person who quietly worked hard, never asking for attention. Though he wasn't as wealthy or handsome as Sir William, his heart was pure, and he had always cared for Rosa. He often saw her walking along the river, and even though he wasn't bold enough to speak his feelings, he watched over her from afar, making sure she was safe. Adrian was a kind-hearted young man with a soft voice and a gentle nature. He had broad shoulders and strong hands from years of working the fields, but he was never boastful about his strength. Unlike the nobleman who came to the village, Adrian didn't have fine clothes or an expensive carriage. He wore simple shirts and pants that showed the wear from hard work. But to Rosa, he was someone who truly mattered. One afternoon, Rosa was picking flowers near the river when Adrian walked up to her. He had a bundle of firewood in his arms, and when he saw her, he stopped, his heart beating faster. He had always been too shy to tell her how he felt, but that day, something inside him urged him to speak. "Rosa," he said quietly, I need to tell you something." His voice trembled slightly. Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.